Never mind that. Aliens are just going over my head. So, so it is January 7th as I'm recording this, and tomorrow's David Bowie's birthday. David Bowie's one of my favorite artists of all time. He's an idol of mine, and fortunately he passed away 5 years ago, or to this very day. Barely see it, but back there I have a Bowie calendar. So, I decided to do something interesting. I decided I would rank all of the albums of his I have on vinyl. Actually, not rank, review them. So, have all 9 of them. I've chosen all of these randomly, and by randomly, I mean I played a game of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and so, I'm just going to talk about them and give my thoughts on them. So, first up, we have Yo. This is from 1977, and it was the first album he did of the Bowie trilogy. I originally hated this album. I really hated this album. I mean, really hated this album. I thought it was boring. I thought that the tracks were long-winded. But after a couple of listens, I got more used to it. It's definitely that kind of album. Even though I wouldn't consider this his best by far, it definitely is the core sound, and especially the B-side, with a lot of the instrumentals that sound out of this world and sometimes even very catchy. Like, the B-side on this album is a real treasure. The A-side feels kind of weak. I wouldn't consider it commercial. It's definitely not that commercial, but I wouldn't really consider it as great as the B-side. But the B-side makes this album more for the album. And plus, the A-side's not that bad. Get the track list here real quick. Some highlights of this album will definitely Always Crashing in the Same Car, New Career in a New Town, of course the whole B-side, and Breaking Glass and Sound Invisible. This is not what I was thinking of. So, if you find this album somewhere, or if you have on any streaming service, definitely give it a listen. It's definitely worth it. I would give it an 8.9. Okay. And there's Young Americans. This is from 1975, I believe. And was his first venture into disco and soul music. I gotta be honest, this is probably personally my least favorite album out of the bunch. Not out of Lincoln's, but this is probably my least favorite personally. To me, this album is always just like in one ear out the other. I can rarely ever remember like except from like the first and the last track on this album. After one listen, like I usually listen to it and then completely forget about it. I don't know. I never really happens with Bowie albums aside from this one. And listened to it last night and like it definitely has some good tracks like Wayne, Fascination, and White. Someone That Affiliates Me and Can You Hear Me? Definitely all great tracks. I'm not really a bit of a fan of the cover of Across the Universe he did, but and of course, Young Americans and Fame, The Open Oil and Cruiser, respectively for you, great tracks. So, this is a great album. Not my personal favorite of his, but it's a great album. I give it a 9.5. That seems pretty high, especially for being my least favorite album, but deal with it. Up next, we have Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. This is the most recent album I have, and it is another one of my most favorite. This is actually my 12th favorite Bowie album. I really like this album. It's one of the dirtiest albums David Bowie ever made. Like, in terms of production, but that's not a bad thing. I love albums with raw production like this, and it definitely has its raw production moments, but it also has a lot of softer production moments like Up the Hill Backwards, Ashes to Ashes, and Teenage Wildlife. Those are great moments of softness on this album, but there's also raw all production on Stream Like a Baby, either title track, Scream Like, It's No Game, Kimberly, and plus the Krill's Always No Game number 2. It's pretty good. Really, all of these tracks are pretty good. The only flaw I have with this album, and it's really a nitpick, is that I don't really come back to Because You're Young that often. So I'm not really a big fan of that song, but it's not really that bad. I'm just not huge on it. But overall, great album, one of his best. I give it a 9.7. High. Up next, we have an absolute classic, Aladdin Sane. This is neo perfection. It's side 1, great. Side 2, not as great, but still great. My favorite songs on this album, the title track, Driving Saturday, Panic in Detroit, Cracked Out All Time. His cover of Let's Spend the Night Together, I actually think that's better than the Rolling Stones version. And Yeti Quinn installed this. Oh, it's such a Bond like song. It just has a majesty to it. But of course, there are other good songs like Lost Fat Man and The Prettiest Star, and those songs are worth listening to on this album as well. However, this might be considered a bit of an uncontroversial opinion, but I don't really like the Genie. I don't really know why. I just don't. I never really been a fan of it. I don't know if that's a me problem or I just can't get into it, but I definitely can't get into it. But overall, it's a great album, another one of his best. Classic for a reason, that iconic ass album cover. I would definitely give this a 9. Okay. Diamond Dogs. Yeah, girl, this is another album I hate. I used to hate, but it's grown on me somewhat. This is a loosely connected concept album. It's loosely on 1984 by Joe Zola. In fact, there's actually a song on here called 1984. It has like a post-apocalyptic theme. You can kind of tell that by the cover. And kind of the open fuselage and Diamond Dog. It really just has that. It also has like that yo-fi aesthetic to go on with it. This album's really not that great of a concept album, but again, it is a usually connected one, so I will give it a pass on that. But the songs themselves are pretty good. Diamond Dogs is really a fucking great way to start the album. The Street Street is great. Not the first street I would ever go to, but it's a good street. Of course, Rebel, absolute classic. 1984's absolutely funky. Big Brother, absolutely great closer alongside Chant of the Ever Circling Skeletal Family. I can't really get into Rock and Roll with Me and We Are the Dead. I say I like Rock and Roll with Me, yes, than We Are the Dead, because We Are the Dead has more to do with the concept. But I can't really get into those two. I don't know if it's because Rock and Roll with Me just feels like a filler single, which doesn't even really make sense because it wasn't even released as a single. But and We Are the Dead kind of feels like it drags on. But overall, it's a pretty fine album. Definitely a good proto-yo-fi album. Definitely would give this an 8.3 out of 10. It's not my favorite by far, but I don't hate it. Onto another concept album he made, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Stars from Mars. This one has a more defined story about a bisexual rock star making it big during the time the world is about to end, him dying, and kind of ambiguous from there. But this has a bunch of classics on it. 5 Years, Soyev, Moon Age Daydream, Yeti Stardust, Hang On To Yourself, Ziggy Stardust, Suffragette City, Rock and Roll Suicide. Rock and Roll Suicide is one of the best closers of all time, without a doubt. It took me a while to get into Star and Hang On To Yourself, but they grew on me. I definitely do think they're pretty fun, and and pretty great watch songs. Depending on what day of the week it is, I either detest or can't and get enough of Starman. But that might be because of how overplayed it is. I don't worry, you hate it that much. And beyond with that, given the concept, Suffragette City kind of feels like filler. It's a fun song, but it still feels like filler, so I kind of feel like it doesn't belong to this album. But other than that, it's a pretty solid album. I would give it a 9.3. Heroes. This came out a few months after Yo, and I feel like it's better than Yo than Yo. It's better than Yo. The non-instrumental songs are great. The instrumental songs are more atmospheric. The yields are better. I just think that this album is overall better. I mean, the classic Heroes is such an amazing track. If you never listened to that, I definitely recommend that be one of the first Bowie songs you ever listen to. Beauty and the Beast, his Son of Siamese, Blackout, some of the most underrated tracks he's made. I definitely recommend you check out this album. Definitely another classic, and the best of the Bowie trilogy, in my opinion. Next up is Hunky Dory. This came out in 1971, right before he grew up, and yeah, this one definitely has some big ones. Changes, Oh You Pretty Things, The iPhone Balls, Coots, Quicksand, and Andy Warhol, songs for Bob Dylan, Queen Biz, the Bouye Brothers. I realize I basically just said the entire track, yes. But this album's an absolute classic. I can't get enough of it. This album just makes me speechless. This is just amazing. This is one of my favorite Bowie albums. I definitely would listen to a lot of these songs by themselves as on the album, which honestly makes a great album. Makes songs that you would want to listen to on the album, but also when you're not listening to the album. That's amazing. The absolute epic, Death on Mars, the Crows or Beauty, the Brothers, the absolute punk phenomenon with this Queen Biz, songs for Bob Dylan, with this kind of a tribute to Bob Dylan, but also kind of a mockery of him. What can you do? The meditative Quicksand, the pretty goofy Coots. I'm not really a bit of a fan of 8-9 Poem, but it's fine. Definitely has to quirk with this album, and this is another one of his best albums. I definitely recommend you check this out. It's without a doubt a 9.5 out of 10. And I've saved the best for last. The metrobolist, aka Man Who Sold the World. This is without a doubt my favorite Bowie album. I really don't really hate any song off it. All the Madmen is my favorite Bowie song of all time. She Took Me Cold, definitely my least favorite, but not favorite song off this album, but I still love it. Black Country Walk is an absolute funky song that kind of reminds me of an Irish jig. The Superman, great cruiser. The Whiff of a Circle, a great 8-minute epic. Something you never expect from Bowie. Running Gun Blues, a definitely great anti-war song about a crazy gunman. After All is a great haunting waltz ballad. Man Who Sold the World, of course, it's really overplayed, but it's definitely a great song. And Saved on the Scene. Great yields, He also doesn't have a weaker production since this is from before he became famous, but doesn't excuse the fact that it's a great album, without a doubt. I give it a 9.7 out of 10, and if not for the bad production, I would give it a 10. 10. And by the way, this is the 2020 remaster that they came out with a few months ago. Oh, I got this for my birthday, and it's fun. It's amazing. So, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the thumbs up for more if you did. Subscribe for more content. Sorry, I haven't been making videos recently. quarantine just didn't really get me in the mood. But see ya and have a good day.